far as I can remember, there were a few people living in Circle Pines here. This would have been in the early 80s, might have been the late 70s. But they decided they wanted to have a little garden where they could plant. And so they got together with Marty Asleason, I think was the member of the Circle Pines Parks Department. And I believe he got some farmer to plow a little piece of land that's by the Anoka Hennepin Credit Union. And maybe about 10 feet wide and 20, 40 feet long. And they planted there for a couple of years until they started developing the area. And then they started looking for another plot, and this was available here. The City Hall and the library weren't here at all yet. And there was actually part of a farmyard here. And so they kind of used a grader to level it off, and they plowed it and got it ready. That was about 83 or so here, 84. Well, I grew up in Kell River, Minnesota. That's west of Moose Lake, and a small dairy farm. And my mother always had a garden, and it was up to us two boys to really weed it at times, and so we learned to love that. There are those people that want to spend time gardening, and in many localities you don't have the area to even put the gardens in. And Circle Pines is very fortunate that we had this before it was started to be developed with something else here. And I think it's an asset to the community, really, when you have the area that the people can plant in. A lot of these people live in the apartments too, and there's no place to garden. Some may have a small piece in their backyard, but they're looking for a little bit more. And few of them, well, they want more than one plot, so I'll assign them 2 plots. But it's basically, if they're living in the apartments, they have no place to garden, but they love the garden. Why? It's a good pastime for them, and it's something to give them a little exercise and give them the fresh food to eat. That's the main reason a lot of them want a garden, the food that you get from them. Fresh vegetables, and so on. It takes work. And I did have a few gardeners this spring. They were all enthusiastic about it, and when we had the meeting, I kind of mentioned to them, there is the amount of time you have to spend in it. Maybe even crawling on your knees, doing the weeding on the smaller plants, which you have to do if you have carrots and so on. Or lettuce, you can hoe it, but not next to the plant, you might hoe them up too. But that's the one thing, to know that it does take time. To sign up for it, you can call the City Hall, and they will give me my phone number and call me. And I'll put them on a list, and usually in the beginning of April, we have a meeting. And by that time, I've more or less looked at the availability of the plots, calling all the former gardeners to see who is going to garden, who is not. And then with the open spots, I will be able to assign the plots to them. Most of them would like to be in this area here, depending on where they live around here. And the others, which are in Baldwin Park, they're not living far from it, so it's more accessible to them. And then at the meeting, when we have it beginning of April, I've assigned them, and they pay the fees which are on it. It's usually been $5 deposit for the newcomers, and then the rental per year is $10. And the plot sizes in here are about 15 feet wide and around 34, 35 feet long. And this particular garden has 33 plots in it. Baldwin has 20. They're a little bit smaller because of the limitation where it is. They're 15 feet wide, but about 25 feet long only. But all they have to do is call in, and they'll get a hold of me, leave a message on the phone if I'm not around. And they can be calling in February, March, which some of them have, to be sure they get up on the list.